He is the most consequential American leader of the 21st century, and that's an understatement. President Trump has, here's a list: removed men from women's sports, ended DEI in the federal government and the U.S. military, expanded oil and gas extraction to lower prices, taken steps to end unfair trade practices, secured trillions of dollars in new investments in American manufacturing, deported criminal illegal aliens, stood up for religious liberty and rooted out anti-Christian bias, combated virulent anti-Semitism on college campuses. The list goes on and on and on. That's just barely scratching the surface. That's in 100 days. We're just getting started.
Just getting started. That was Speaker Mike Johnson talking about Trump's first 100 days. We are at that mark right now. The time is flying by, but certainly a lot already for the Trump administration to tout in terms of accomplishments, and a lot more on the way. And Clay, I don't know if you saw this, but our friend Senator Tommy Tuberville, he went full A+ in his grading here. So I scaled mine down to an A because I think you can't really give an A+. But Senator Tuberville, he thinks you can. Play 6.
100 days. What do you think?
A+. But what else can he do, Larry? They left it in a total mess. I was up here for 4 years of Joe Biden. They did not do one thing for the American people or for this country. They actually tried to destroy it, and everything went down. Now President Trump has got foreign wars. He's got deportations, the border, the tax cuts. He's trying to save the economy. What a total disaster the Democrats created, and they're on the steps of the Capitol, kumbaya and all this kind of stuff going on, and they make absolutely no sense of what's happened, and they don't have a clue how to fix anything, so they're just trying to create problems.
I think that's certainly the case. Democrats are just an opposition party or a party of no. Now, that when you're out of power is always somewhat true, but you can also say, I don't like what he's doing. Here's what should be done. Democrats just still chant about Hitler and all kinds of exaggerated, crazy nonsense to oppose Trump. But Clay, here's one area where they're going after him using numbers. This is cut 16. CNN's Harry Enton yesterday on the 100-day mark saying, or just before the 100-day mark, saying that the poll numbers aren't in his favor.
These numbers are just horrible. There's no way to sugarcoat it. And the first way we'll sort of point that out is we'll look at where Donald Trump is now versus where he was 100 days into his first presidency. And you see it here. You don't have to be a mathematical genius. 41% approval of him now. It was 44% back in 2017 around the 100-day mark. And what's so notable here is that throughout his second term as president, he tended to be running ahead of where he was in his first term. No longer is that the case. He has fallen below where he was at this point in his first term. Of course, this is just Trump. Let's compare him to other presidents. And I really think this kind of puts a bow on it. And you can see it here. You see the 41%. That is 12 points below Joe Biden. That's 3 points below where he was in his first term.
Shouldn't that tell us, Clay, that it doesn't matter? If Biden was 12 points ahead of where Trump is now, he had a failed presidency, he was a disaster, and he was hiding dementia from the American people. That's just one example of, or one data point toward, I don't care what Trump's poll numbers are right now. I care that Trump is pursuing the agenda. That's what he's supposed to do. And people who are getting weak knees over tariffs need to stiffen their spines a little bit.
I also think that poll numbers for presidents only matter if they can run for re-election. We talked to J.D. Vance at the top of the last hour. J.D. Vance, I imagine, would like to be the successor of Trump. He is the person who would be running in some way more than anyone on what the legacy of Trump is. If Trump has, as I think he will, a very popular legacy in 2028, then I think J.D. Vance will win the presidency, because I would expect that J.D. will be the favorite in 2028. And as the vice president, he will be running on the legacy of the president to some extent. Obviously, you try to also put your own spin forward on things. But look, I mean, this is the challenge that Kamala Harris had. And whatever you think of Kamala Harris, and I think she was a very weak candidate, the reason she lost, in addition to being a weak candidate herself, was because she said there wasn't anything that she would do that was different than what Joe Biden had done. And when you have a profoundly unpopular sitting president and your answer is, hey, more of the same, it's unlikely that the American public is going to respond favorably to you. But, Buck, here is what I think from the poll perspective, to the point you said weak need. I think that Trump came in and said, we have major, huge, systemic issues that need to be solved. The border, I would argue Buck is pretty much solved. Now, deportation is a challenge, but in terms of allowing things to get worse, he solved it in the first 100 days. The global trade imbalances, this is a major battle that's going to continue for a long time, but he took it on. And then the other one is the fact that we have a $36 trillion national debt. He tried to take that on. Where do you think the negativity is coming from? Not the border, where overwhelmingly people agree with him. It's taking big swings and big cuts at global trade and at the overall economic basis of our budget. He's taken some lumps there because he's trying to fix two really substantial issues.
Well, this is where the psychology of propaganda also is so important, because they were talking about a Trump recession or even a Trump depression just a couple of weeks ago when there was a choppy week in the markets, up, down, up, down. And you could say, well, Buck, clearly we're not in markets up today. We're not, doing backflips over it. But the point is, they can make people feel negatively about things, even when the reporting is premature or just flatly untrue, right? So if you tell people enough things are bad, they've done interesting studies about this. If you're a person who is just positive about other people in general, people view you more positively, which makes sense, right? And if you're somebody who's always talking smack, who's always saying that, Sally from accounting needs to, work harder, or, Joe from accounts receivable needs to put in more time, whatever. If you're always the negative person, people tend to view you more negatively. Well, this is true of news reporting as well. If you're just talking negative stories endlessly, even if those stories are exaggerated or turn out not to be what you initially reported, you can make people think things are worse than they are. And this is why Democrats also rush with and the Democrat-aligned media rushes with the negative narrative as fast as they can. They don't want to wait for things to play out because they want to turn the perception against the administration, because this is politics, right? That's how they view it. They just want people to think things are bad. Remember when the Biden, they had this in the opposite direction, when for a while Biden's strategy, I think going into the midterms and then afterwards for a while, Clay, was the economy's great. People just don't know how great it is, right? That was their argument. That was their argument. You don't even know how great things are for you right now. You just need to pay attention to how great they are. It's like, well, that did not exactly resonate. They're trying a different version of, sure, you think things are pretty much okay and actually going pretty well. They're actually terrible, though. And that's what they've been doing, certainly for the last month on the economy. So, long story short, I think the poll numbers don't matter. Why would they matter right now? No one's going to care what the polls were now in 6 months or even in 6 weeks. So it's just an effort to try to create negative perception.
I think they would matter maybe if there were a more popular politician in America. And there isn't one, right? So, I mean, if Democrats, the Biden poll numbers always occurred with the shadow of a Trump presidency and a Trump reelection bid hanging out there. I know we talked about Wes Moore in the last hour and who the Democrat, J.B. Pritzker, Mayor Pete, that are trying to kind of set the agenda to try to be the nominee in 2028. Who's a more popular politician right now than Trump? Is there any Democrat? I mean, the Democrat approval ratings in Congress make the Trump approval ratings look phenomenal. So I think you have to look at it in the context of, is anyone else doing better? You also hit on something that I always thought was super fascinating. Do you know what the number one likelihood of who was going to get sued as a doctor was? You talked about how people are seen. Do you know what they've studied from a?
If you don't like the doctor, the chance of you suing the doctor goes up like 10x or something.
Bedside manner. It's not does the doctor screw up a lot. If the doctor has a likable comportment, the odds of him being sued or her being sued much lower. The bedside manner aspect there. And so I think that factors in on some level. Trump is now a known quantity. And the thing that Trump got right back in 2016 when he said it is, hey, I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and my base is not leaving me. And I'm paraphrasing him on that quote, but that was basically the quote. The Trump base is not leaving. Now, we've talked about this for some time. What is the Trump base? I think 40% of America is dyed-in-the-wool Trump team. And so he's going to have that 40% no matter what. He got a big percentage growth, I think, in the 2024 election. And now the question is, I think this is going to ultimately determine everything. What's the economy like? This is what I told you, Buck. I think I said that I was going to tease this, and I told you inflation was number one. I'll hit you with the other things, but it's inflation overwhelmingly. If the price of gas keeps coming down, and if the price of groceries does not go up, the average American is going to consider Trump to have done a decent job. I'll also layer on foreign affairs. Doesn't feel like we're very close to a war. Now, I hope I'm not jinxing it, but it feels like for Americans, in terms of our stability and safety around the world, I feel pretty good about that. As we speak
if Canada
right now.
decides to just get it together and invade us, I am going to blame you for this now.
This will be on me if Canada or Mexico. Canada or Mexico, Costa Rica decides to finally get an army and decides to try to invade. This will be on me because I just said I feel very safe. But in general, I feel like we're a long way from any wars.
Also, I would just say, what would people want Trump to be working on right now who voted for him that he's not doing? I think that's an important question to ask at this age. What is the thing that Trump said, I will, in the first 100 days, do the following, start to do the following, right? I'm not saying the results are all in or that everything has been accomplished, far from it. But what is the area of focus where Trump has not focused and we were told he would? I cannot think of it because I don't think it exists. I think he has come out and started going after everything he said he would go after. Deportations are in the early phase, but it is happening. The border is secure. It happened even faster than I anticipated that it would. He's getting the negotiations going on tariffs. He has the negotiations going on Russia-Ukraine. He is looking at Iran and Israel and Mideast peace, etc. What is he not doing that he said he would do? That's, I think, in a lot of ways, the real test of the first 100 days is that, promises made, promises kept goes a little bit too far because, well, have we gotten the results yet that we need? No, but focus is important, and the focus has been on what he said it would be. And I think in the first 100 days of an administration, that's about the best you can ask for. Is you're actually doing this stuff, right? You're trying to do this stuff actively. You're not delaying. You're not prevaricating. You're not saying, oh, I don't want to go as hard in this direction as I said I would. That was just to fool you idiots to vote for me. He said, no, okay, let's go. And so I think that there's a lot of credit that should be given to him on that. And the other stuff, Clay, that we're talking about with the loss of some support in the polls, a lot of that's media perception. A lot of that is people freak out quickly, okay? They hear that there's a recession coming. They go, oh, my gosh, the recession. It's going to be fine. All right, let's talk about preborn for a second here. The preborn network of clinics has a team of people who have a critical mission, saving the lives of unborn babies. They see the access and widespread availability of abortions for pregnant women who are debating such a decision, and preborn steps in and does all they can to help convince that pregnant mom that there's a better option for her than abortion, life for her baby. And one way that preborn achieves this is by giving the gift of an ultrasound, because that ultrasound allows that mom to meet her unborn child, to hear the heartbeat and see the movements of the child within her. They accomplish this goal with just $28 in expense. Okay, that is fantastic because it allows them to put so much time and effort toward actually the mission, helping moms in this process. Preborn operates its clinics in communities across the country where abortion rates are tragically high. They do this on purpose because Preborn gives resources and services to women, including that ultrasound, to help save lives every day. In 20 years, the preborn clinics have saved 300,000 plus babies. To donate securely to preborn, they need your help, the pro-life community. They don't get a dollar from the government. Dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, say baby, or go to preborn.com/buck, preborn.com/BUCK, sponsored by Preborn.